you've made such an incredible first impression, and it's been a while since you came up, but you've created such a buzz in town. You guys are on the road right now, but what has that experience been like for you, having all these Blue Jay fans really coast to coast jumping on your bandwagon so quickly?
It's been pretty crazy so far. I mean, I'm from a small town in middle of kind of nowhere, South Jersey. So having all this happen to me, it's still kind of like a dream so far, but it's been great. I mean, the fans are awesome. The city's awesome. So I can't really ask for a better start.
How important is it, or how key is it to come up for you and the other young guys to play in important games as opposed to getting called up to an organization that's so far out of it, you're just kind of getting your feet wet? But these games are important. How important is that to you?
People ask me that, but this is my first time really doing it, so I really have no other kind of reality of it because I never got called up before, so I never really had that experience with a team that has a losing record. So coming up now, it's kind of my only experience, so I don't really know what to kind of, any other experience is kind of different. So having this happen is pretty cool. I mean, it's middle of a playoff race, so every game is important. You just have to go out there, just try to do your best, compete, and make sure you just leave it all on the field.
Well, obviously, when you came up, you would have been excited. We've all talked about that series at Fenway, your debut. We'll get into that momentarily. But as you mentioned, you didn't know any better, and I'm sure you were coming up. You were jacked. You were prepared to perform. But I'm curious if any of the veterans got that message across to you pretty quickly. Hey, you're up here, and we need wins. We need production. Because at that point, you guys were chasing it, especially against the division, going into Fenway. I mean, the stats against the AL East were terrible, and you end up sweeping. You played a huge role in that. The veterans and them welcoming you into the clubhouse, what was the messaging like when you first showed up?
Yeah, I mean, when you first get there, everyone was all congratulatory, congratulating me on just getting called up and everything. But once that was kind of over, it was kind of go time. They were like, we know that this is a big moment for you, but, we're expecting you to kind of contribute and making sure that, this isn't just a weekly thing. You're going to have to, we want you to stay here and make sure that, just try to do your best, contribute, because this is a playoff race. And they didn't really say that in those words, but they just kind of made sure I kind of got the idea that, this is fun, but this is a really big weekend ahead of us, especially in Boston, because, Boston, we weren't very too good against them earlier in the season. So having to sweep them was kind of big at the moment, and every game is important, but that was even just more crucial just because it's the AL East opponent. And, at the time we weren't really doing the best, and having 3 games coming out of there with 3 wins was pretty big.
With Davis Schneider, and you hit a home run in your first at bat. You had multiple home runs, a bunch of hits that weekend, to the point where it was historical. No one had a debut like the one you had in Boston. At what point did it become ridiculous even for yourself? Did you take a step back and say, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing here? We're in the major leagues. We're at Fenway Park.
I mean, I think after the first homer, the whole weekend was pretty crazy. But I mean, after the first homer, I sat in the dugout. I remember I just sat down after I hit it, and our assistant hitting coach, Hunter Mentz, I was like, holy, and I cursed a little bit, but it was just that moment where I didn't expect it to happen, especially in my first ever game, I mean, because I grew up with a Northeast guy, and, Boston was kind of close to me, so I kind of knew some Red Sox guys and kind of watched them growing up too, but, it was crazy. It still is crazy to me. I'm out here in Oakland right now, and it's still kind of all of a blur to me. But I think when I get back home in the off season, where it's really going to kick in for me, and I can really kind of just reflect on everything that's going to happen. But we still got a month left, so there's still a lot to do.
A lot of people wondering when you committed to the full mustache.
It was kind of like a hybrid thing I did. It was just when Top Gun was starting to come out, and so everyone kind of got that mustache kind of phase going, and so I kind of joined that. And then I wasn't really hitting well at the time, so I was like, I'm just going to go full mustache to see if I can start hitting a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of both Top Gun, and I wasn't really hitting well at the time, so I had to change something up.
Davis, when guys get called up, they usually lock eyes on a veteran-type player because of their talent and how they do their business. Is there one guy for you where you could just lock eyes on and say, that guy gets it done every day, and that's who I want to watch and kind of follow along here?
I mean, we have a lot of veteran guys on the team. I'd say most of them, all of them basically. I mean, we have Brandon Bell, Springer, even Bo and Vladdy are kind of veterans at this point. Kevin Kiermaier, Chapman. I mean, everyone up and down the lineup is a big piece and a big guy that works hard. Whit Merrifield. I mean, there wasn't really one specific guy. I mean, I look up to the whole team. Being part of this team kind of makes it special because these guys are really good. They've been good for a long time, and I'm just happy that I can be on the same field as them.
Obviously, there's a lot of discussion, lineup cards every single day, day in, day out. What's going to happen? You're dealing with serious injuries right now with Chapman, Bichette, and Jansen out. You were not in the lineup last night. Not long after you had that great debut in Boston, you went to Cleveland. They had you batting leadoff your fourth game as a major leaguer. And then you spent some time kind of waiting to get back in there. What has the explanation been in terms of why you were not in the lineup last night, or at different points why you haven't been in the lineup, considering your stats have been off the charts?
I mean, there's a lot of good players on the team, so I get it. And, matchups are matchups for a reason, and, there's analytics for a reason. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, if I'm not in the lineup that day, I'm always going to be ready to go in for a pinch hit, pinch run, or going out on defense. So, I mean, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of good players. So, I mean, the room to kind of work with in the lineup is kind of hard to get in there. So, like, I get it. And, it's just the way it is. And I can't really do anything about it. I just got to go in there. If I am in there, just give it 100%. If I'm not, just be ready if I try to get in there later in the game.
How long do you have to play if the player the coach puts in, the matchup doesn't work before you can go up to him and say, yeah, great job on that matchup there. That really worked. You got to play a long time to say something like that?
No, I mean, baseball never works out sometimes. It's just the way it is. Baseball's a hard game, so it's hard to kind of judge what to happen or what's going to happen. So, you just got to put in those guys that are going to perform that day. And, I could have went over yesterday. I mean, I got into the game and I struck out. So, it's not like I'm going to do well every game. I might go over for my next 20. This is the way baseball is. And I'm, I could get a hit every single game, or I could go over, like I said, for my next 20. So that's just the way baseball works. And as long as you can put in the work and be prepared, then I'm okay with that.
With Davis Schneider, so what kind of slump would we have to be talking for you to go clean shaven?
I get mad after one at bat if I don't get a hit. So, I mean, maybe after, I would say 0 for like 15 or something like that, where I don't, if I feel good at the plate and I'm putting the ball in play, then that's a different story. But I mean, if I feel bad and things don't go my way, then, it might have to be shaven at some point.
All right.
The crazy. You can't even bring that up.
No.
That's such a non-professional athlete question. I apologize on behalf of this guy.
It's a legitimate
No, it
question.
isn't.
It's a legitimate
I
question.
thought about it.
There you go.
I thought about it
Thank
before,
you.
but people are like, you got to keep it, even if you're doing bad. It's just the way you look now, so you can't really change anything. And I was like, all right, maybe after the season I'll shave it, but we'll see.
Oh man, listen, they're selling shirts.
Oh, he's gonna be on T-shirts. There's kids dressed up. Like we have to keep the stash.
Listen, I hope you have a 15-year career. You go to the Hall of Fame. You're gonna have to commit to the stash, right? Like if you keep hitting above 300, you're gonna have to have the stash for the rest of your life. Possibly.
I know, but I mean, in the streets in Toronto, I kind of get a little notice, and it's cool, but I'm not a big, I'm a low-key guy, so flying under the radar is kind of my thing, and the stash makes me stand out a little bit.
Yes, it definitely does.
But do the Oakleys, do they come out in public too, or do they stay at the ballpark?
Nah, they stay at the ballpark. I don't wear glasses outside the field. They're only for me helping me see the ball. I can see it fine driving and everything, but it helps me see the ball a little bit better. So they kind of stay stashed away.
That'd be outstanding. If you were looking for TikTok followers, Instagram followers, you're just walking around down Yonge Street with the stash and the shades on, that'll make you stick out.
All my buddies would make fun of me if I did that, so I can't be doing that.